She's one of America's fastest-growing stars, but could controversy derail Sydney Sweeney's supersonic career? Hollywood has fast become Sydney Sweeney's adventure playground. The 27-year-old actress shot to fame after she bagged the role of Cassie Howard in HBO's Euphoria, as well as Olivia Mossbacher in Apple TV+'s The White Lotus, and earned a Primetime Emmy nomination for both roles in 2022, along with a whole international fandom. Since then, Sydney's star has soared. She led and produced blockbuster rom-com Anyone But You in 2023, and her latest projects include Apple TV+ series Echo Valley, playing Julianne Moore's devious but charismatic junkie daughter, plus Christy, a biopic of trailblazing American female boxer Christy Martin. But Sydney's rise hasn't been without controversy. Known for choosing roles that lean into hypersexualized archetypes, she's become a lightning rod for public debate. Later, she told Variety, "People feel connected and free to be able to speak about me in whatever way they want, because they believe that I've signed my life away. That I'm not on a human level anymore, because I'm an actor." Sydney's hosting stint on Saturday Night Live last March only intensified the conversation. Dressed in a Hooters waitress uniform for multiple sketches, she embraced the caricature of her public image, even joking the job was her backup career. Conservative critics quickly dubbed the moment a flashback to pre-number Me Too attitudes. One commentator even described her breasts as the double D harbingers of the death of woke. Sydney's response? A tongue-in-cheek sweatshirt that read, "Sorry for having great tits and correct opinions." Then in June, she partnered with Dr. Squatch to launch $8 soap bars infused with her actual bathwater, a move some interpreted as a bold, satirical poke at the objectification she often faces. It happens all the time, as women's voices have been historically marginalized. In today's age of social media, your identity is your brand, and that brand can be worth a lot of money, but it can also be sabotaged if left in the wrong hands. Having control of your own voice, body, image, and likeness is so critically important. Launching her own production company, 50/50 Films, in 2020, was Sydney's creative solution to that problem, taking her from actor for hire to industry powerhouse. Dedicated to adapting stories by first-time female authors and up-and-coming screenwriters, she told Teen Vogue, "I'm a big advocate for making sure everybody's voice is heard." But carving out creative space hasn't been easy. In an interview with The Times earlier this year, Sydney admitted she's not always taken seriously as a producer, especially, she noted, by women who give me the hardest time. Speaking on Josh Horowitz's Happy Sad Confused podcast in March 2024, Sydney confessed that the roles that are challenging or creatively fulfilling are usually the ones that you have to fight for. She went on to explain in The Times that casting directors often dismiss her due to her performance as Cassie, her overtly sexualized character in Euphoria, a role she reprised earlier this year for the long-awaited third season, due for release in 2026. "I feel like I'm constantly having to be like, no, I'm an actor," she said. "I'm supposed to play different characters." That philosophy also extends to red carpet appearances and talk show interviews, spaces where Sydney says she feels most uncomfortable. To manage her nerves, she inhabits personas in the way she would on set, a place she describes as her playground and where she feels at home. Indeed, Sydney was just 10 when she discovered her love of performance at the family home in Spokane, Washington, on the Idaho border. There, she would build imaginary worlds and put on performances for her parents, her mom Lisa, a former criminal defense lawyer, and dad Steven, a pharmaceutical rep. She recently told Glamour that acting became a full-on obsession alongside childhood passions like river swimming and hiking. Electronic devices, meanwhile, were banned by her parents, so, as a teen, Sydney secretly streamed episodes of The Secret Life of the American Teenager. When a low-budget zombie film began shooting in her town, Sydney persuaded her parents to let her audition by pitching them a PowerPoint 5-year acting plan. It worked twofold. She auditioned, then landed a small part in 2010 film ZMD, Zombies of Mass Destruction. From there, she began auditioning whenever possible, first in Seattle and Portland, and eventually in Los Angeles, traveling the grueling 2,400-mile round trip every time by car. "I owe everything to them," she said of her parents on Happy, Sad, Confused, crediting them as her earliest champions. When Sydney became a victim of bullying at her private school, an education funded by financial aid, her parents homeschooled her for a while, before selling the family home and moving to LA to further her acting dreams. But the move, when Sydney was 13, came at a price. Living costs proved too high, and the family, including her younger brother Trent, found themselves crammed into a single motel room. By 2016, her parents had filed for both bankruptcy and divorce. Sydney, working 100-a-day acting jobs, cleaning bathrooms and babysitting, continued to dream of a breakthrough that might solve all their problems. "I thought that if I made enough money, I'd be able to buy my parents' house back and put my family back together," she told The Hollywood Reporter in 2022. "But when I turned 18, I only had $800 to my name. My parents weren't back together, and there was nothing I could do to help." Her longed-for break finally came in 2018, with roles in Marty Noxon's Sharp Objects and Netflix's Everything Sucks, followed by a standout appearance in The Handmaid's Tale and then Euphoria. Now reportedly worth over $30 million, Sydney has built a brand empire, thanks to endorsement deals from Miu Miu to Kerastase. And her financial clout is set to grow even more with the launch of her lingerie line, backed by a $1.5 billion investment from her pal, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, and Dell Technologies CEO Michael Dell. That Bezos connection, insiders say, is also making Sydney a frontrunner for the next Bond girl role. Now the movie is under Amazon MGM's creative control. Sydney's DMs are packed with messages from famous men. As well as clearing her mom's mortgage, Sydney has built an impressive property portfolio with her fortune. She has 2 homes in LA. Her primary residence is a $10 million Florida beachfront mansion. Plus, she repurchased her great-grandmother's former house in 2023, years after the family was forced to sell it. Now, Sydney is dreaming of a different kind of legacy. "I want to have a family. I've always wanted to be a young mom," she told The Hollywood Reporter in 2022, while still in a 7-year relationship with her businessman fiancé, Jonathan Davino. When the pair called off their engagement earlier this year, speculation mounted of romance between Sydney and her Anyone But You co-star Glenn Powell, which they later admitted they allowed to swirl to help promote the film. But despite sightings with Orlando Bloom and Tom Brady at Jeff Bezos' Venice wedding in June, insiders say Sydney's single by choice. "I'm learning a lot about myself, spending more time with my friends, and I'm loving it," she told The Times in May. That's not to say she isn't without plenty of admirers. The Sun revealed that Premier League players from Manchester United, Liverpool, and Arsenal have all slid into her DMs to ask her out. But despite the offers, she has politely declined. An insider said, her Instagram DMs are packed with messages from famous men trying to get in contact with her. They offer her trips to Europe to see them and take her on a date, but she's not the kind of person who does that. Some of them are very insistent and have even tried to find her address to send her flowers, but she always refuses. Behind the scenes, Sydney is an avid book reader, trained MMA fighter, and vintage car restorer. A hobby she calls her therapy, and documents for 1.9 million followers on her TikTok Sid's Garage. Whether she's creating or courting controversy, on screen or off, Sydney Sweeney isn't just tagging along for the ride. She's firmly in the driver's seat of her extraordinary life. Please subscribe for more updates.